Alright, you guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a little while, but I am very excited to have another new video for you today. This one's going to be a little bit different. Rather than just talking about something educational or, just regular old mental health related, I found a article that I found I had a lot of things to say. And this seems to be one of those articles that was really written to attract a lot of attention to kind of the idea that people with mental illness are basically faking their illness or the severity of the disorder for attention. Yeah, somebody actually wrote an article. Could literally call it 10 signs that your mental illness is for attention. Now, the tricky thing about this article is the link to it technically no longer seems to work, since I originally found it a long time ago, many months ago. Luckily for me, I was able to find several videos that have clips of the full article, bit by bit, on screen. So I literally have to basically screenshot them just to be able to actually read and quote them. So if you're wondering why the link doesn't work, because I will put it in the description, because I do want to source where I originally got the article from. It just seems that I can't seem to find a text version or someone that copy and pasted it onto another site. I just find a lot of sites that just put the link, and of course the link no longer works. So my workaround is a little bit interesting, but I do want to be able to actually quote the article and reference that. So that's what I have to do for that. So if you appreciate the work and effort that goes into that, definitely give the video a thumbs up, and let's get right into this. Again, this is called 10 signs that your mental illness is for attention. So, point number 1, here we go. Oh, and before we get started, I should probably mention that this article will probably piss you off. You probably won't agree with most, if not any, of these points. Some are far more ridiculous than others. So just a fair warning to those of you who, might think it's just a fake article. No, somebody really wrote this. So, don't be too mad. Here we go. So, point number 1. Your definitions of illness change all the time. One day, depression means you can't get out of bed, or tie your shoes, or pay your bills. The next, it means that you want to stay home and watch movies. The next, it's not that serious. Your definitions change all the time, depending on context and how sick you really want to look. Yeah. So, obviously, right off the bat, this person who wrote this article clearly does not understand the idea, number 1, of the varying severities of mental illness. They also don't seem to understand the idea that many disorders are episodic, and that it is not a straight line of constant depression that never fluctuates, mania that doesn't fluctuate. Realistically, a lot of the article seems to talk more about depression, or seem to be written for depression or anxiety. So those are kind of the two that I'll probably reference the most. But either way, this idea that, someone it can't possibly ever have a good day, that every day is consistently flatlined at being, shit, is ridiculous. There are days that I am much more higher functioning just in general. I actually manage to get a few things done. And then there's days that I really don't get out of bed. And there's days that I don't really eat. And there's days that I don't really stay on top of making appointments or doing dishes, whatever it may be. So first of all, this idea of, disorder is not always lining up with someone, and that someone having a good day must mean that they're faking their illness is absolute bullshit. But you obviously already thought that, right? Exactly. On to point number 2. Point number 2 says, you are constantly sharing shit about it on social media. Every time someone writes a hashtag powerful essay on whatever website about their struggle with upper middle class anxiety, you share it. You share how to date someone with blank. You share 7 things only people with OCD know. It's your whole identity, and you're constantly reminding people that you are sick and brave and in a permanent struggle against the world. So let's look first at this idea of constantly posting shit about your mental illness on social media. Now, I personally don't necessarily fall too much into this trend, mostly because I don't post really links to my videos anywhere, not on my personal Facebook, not on my personal Instagram. Really, the only people I share them with are actual friends or people I follow on Facebook or people I follow on the channel page for Instagram, which admittedly I really don't update much at all. I don't really post on there at all, but I do occasionally message people with the links and say, hey, I made a new video on this, check it out. But either way, there are people who obviously do post their entire stories. They post every day what's going on, updates, the whole 9 yards. First of all, the idea that your disorder is, it becomes your whole identity, it's all you talk about, basically, is what this is saying. I think this, for some people, that is more true than others. There's people that are very open and very accepting of their disorder, me, and are willing to make videos about these topics because it's important. The other thing I would say with this is that people might be talking about this and posting about their issues a lot, or articles that they find, because it's a way for them to spread awareness, which, as we know, helps prevent some of the stigma that we have here in the mental health world, which is really the biggest thing I try to always cover in my videos, is this never-ending stigma, what it is, why it exists, all of that. And if you want more information about stigma, I did a video a while back. I'll put the card up there, the link in the card up there. So definitely check that out as well if you want to know more about the stigma. Either way, this is not a sign of faking, so that's not a good reason either. On to point number 3. Point number 3 says, you list it in your bios. If your bio announces from the get-go that you have depression before you even mention, a job or a hobby or an accomplishment, you need help. And not in the Lexapro department, in the you have nothing interesting to say about yourself besides a disorder department. Now, there are some things I would say. There are some people that certainly do this. There's a time and a place, I would say. Here on my YouTube channel, I believe, have mentioned in my About section my diagnoses, because it's relevant. There are people who do put on their Tinders or something, depressed girl, anxious, I don't know. I mean, I have seen that, I guess. I would say, even still, it kind of goes back to the whole, identity thing. Like, you identify yourself by your disorder. It's like saying, I am bipolar instead of I have bipolar. There is a distinction, and it is something that takes a lot of time to become more consistent with understanding that and recognizing that in yourself. I will say, though, kind of as a person who does generally kind of still have those thoughts of the disorder is a tremendous, huge part of me. specifically referring to the BPD, because it's a personality disorder. It defines so much of how I react to situations, how I view other people, or how I think that they view me, and fearing the rejection from how they might look at me or react to me. So in those instances, it's very hard for me to say, like, oh yeah, that's not really a part of me. It makes up a huge part of me and kind of how I am the way I am. So, again, people who are posting a lot about their diagnosis, it can be done for attention. I would still say that for many people, they don't really have a better sense of who they are. And with BPD, with depression, with anxiety, it does make it hard to often recognize other things that are good about yourself, or other things that you are interested in or have hobbies in. You know, if somebody asks me, name 5 things that you enjoy about yourself, or 5 things that you have had people say that they like about you. For me, I probably come up with a different list every time, because it would take me a little bit to actually try to come up with something that would not sound stupid and like not realistic. Because again, as part of BPD criteria, an unstable sense of self is incredibly common. And even in depression and anxiety and all these other disorders, you can have that same pervasive feeling of not really having a good understanding of yourself or how other people view you. So again, it can be a kind of attention seeking, but I think it's important to also recognize that that's also part of many of these disorders that leads to that inability to better describe yourself or think more positively of yourself as well. On to number 4. Now, I will say number 4 has a lot of colorful language. So, she actually highlighted it out, and she actually bleeped it out in the video. But we'll just kind of summarize this next one. Essentially, number 4 says, you use it to be an asshole to other people. If you don't call someone back, it's not because phones give you anxiety. It's because you're a fucking asshole. If you don't show up to a friend's birthday party, it's not because you're bad in social situations. It's because you're an asshole. If you take stress out on your significant other constantly for no reason, it's not because you're depressed. It's because you're an asshole. Mental illness, although convenient, is not a catch-all reason to treat people like shit. Now this one in particular, probably more than just about any of the others on here, is absolutely ridiculous. And there's so many things that you could say about this. So let's take the first example of, if you don't talk to people on the phone, or you don't call someone back, or you don't answer your phone, that it's impossible that you really don't like phone calls. It just means you're an asshole, and you're just doing it because you want to give a big F you to, the person who's calling. Now, let's ask the person who actually really has anxiety and really does not like talking on the phone what I think of that. It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. And there's another side of this too that they don't mention in this specific example, but that goes along with this. There's a lot of people that would probably say, if I am okay with texting someone, but if they call me, I don't answer, or I don't call them, but I text them, I'm an asshole. And it has nothing to do with, I really don't like making phone calls. It kind of goes back to the first one, right? About not having, not being able to have good days and bad days. Not being able to have some things I can do and manage better than others. That's how it works. And I think any person with any mental illness, of any severity, of any degree, of any amount of impairment, is going to tell you there's good times, there's bad times, There's symptoms that come out of nowhere, and there's other things that you can really prepare for, or things that are kind of always there affecting you that you can kind of work around. And that's, again, important to remember. Again, this whole comment is absolute bullshit. Alright, we made it to number 5. The last one for this video. I don't want this being a 5-hour video of all 10 at once, so I'm going to split it up into 2 parts. These are the first 5. We'll go to the next 5 next video. But either way, I left the best for last, because it ties all the other things we just talked about together. Number 5. When it's convenient, your illness takes a back seat. Unless something really fun is coming up and you manage to get it together, or you want to impress a date by pretending that you're really active and outgoing and happy, then you're fine. So, yet again, good days, bad days. More manageable stuff, a lot less more manageable stuff. I'm pretty sure I said that before, didn't I? Yeah. Oh, that's right. I did. How could I forget? So overall, this article is really, really, really poorly written. And it's written by a person who poorly understands mental illness. And, you know, I can try to understand some of the points they make. But as a person who goes through this shit, and a person who has been called lazy for not being able to get out of bed, for not being able to do work, not being able to make appointments, because I'm too depressed, I'm too anxious, whatever, you know, it's ridiculous that I know how it looks, but the fact is we're all people, and we're all suffering, and at varying degrees, on varying days, at varying times. I don't compare myself to other people. I don't say, well, you're not as depressed as I am. Fuck you. Like, get it together. Because I understand that that's not how it works. And hopefully the amount of videos just like this one and the one that like Kristen did, and I'm sure there's many, many more reaction videos commenting on this same article. Hopefully the backlash they got from the mental health community and people who are just a little bit more aware of what's going on, hopefully they kind of learned a lesson. We'll never know, of course, because the link doesn't even work, and you know, who knows who really wrote the article at this point. But either way, hopefully you guys agree with these points that I've made, and you find the article to be not very well written for people who really do suffer from this every single day. So let me know in the comments what you thought of this article and my thoughts on it. Definitely leave your own thoughts down in the comments as well. If you liked the video, definitely give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for all future videos so you don't miss any. And we'll see you for parts 5 through 10 of this article in the next video. Here we go.